You are listening to the Billy D's podcast. We are waiting just a minute for everyone to engage the live stream. Remember, you can find the Billy D's podcast on your favorite platform.
All right. Well, hello, everyone on X. We always wait just a moment for everybody to lock onto the live stream. Sometimes people have to refresh their browser or refresh their app, whatever. Lori is with us today. Lori, hello.
Hey, Billy D's. It's great to see you. How's it going?
Awesome. It's going really good. Really good indeed. Let me check a few things here, and then we'll go ahead and get going. I think we're good. You good, Lori?
I think so. As good as can be expected under these crazy circumstances. Man, what a couple of weeks.
Yes, it's been
What a couple
crazy.
of weeks.
Yes, it has been crazy. I'm going to pause, and then I will go ahead and do the intro and get the show on the road.
Great.
All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. As always, I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. If you've never checked us out before, we are primarily an interview and a commentary-based podcast. Today, we are live on X and a various number of other different platforms. It's a commentary program today, opinion program. With me is Lori Spencer. Lori, welcome to the program.
Great to be back. How are you, Billy? Good to see you.
It's great to have you. There's not too many people online that do what we do that I respect more than you. I mean, you're like top shelf. Okay, so it's not flattery when I say it's an honor to have you. I'm very glad you are on the program. Very briefly,
I feel the same about you, and I'm not just blowing smoke. I have great respect for you. That's why anytime you ask, I'm here, buddy.
Oh, I appreciate that. Lori is an American independent journalist. She is a historian. She has the podcast Hidden History Revealed and also Strange Bedfellows. And speaking of Strange Bedfellows, there's a lot of that going on in politics today, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to cover two areas today. First of all, I would certainly call you a friend. I've followed, your progression in your commentary about politically and so forth. And there was a time when you were very much with the RFK camp, which is Robert Kennedy Jr. And you have now switched to Trump. I'm going to talk about that. And of course, we cannot ignore what is going on in the news today with Biden stepping out. Of course, I've been saying that to anyone who would listen.
Yes, you have. I remember. And as usual, you have a funny way of being right about things,
yes.
Billy.
If you're new to the program, it's not something I delight in. It's not like, I told you, blah, blah, blah.
I told you.
No, not at all. I feel bad. If this was my father, quite frankly, I would have had the discussion a while back. Hey, Dad, you've been president of the United States. You're going to go down in history as a president of the United States, and bow out gracefully. You should be enjoying life and not being the leader of the free world. So I want you to know that it's nothing like I'm not a partisan in that regard. So just to let the new viewers that happen to come in, there's no delight that I have here that this has happened, none whatsoever. I've read some of Lori's comments recently, and she indicated that over the past 5 days and nights, I have prayed for divine guidance in making this decision. I have listened to my heart. As a former supporter of RFK Jr., I am now officially endorsing President Trump and joining his fight to save America. So that's kind of where I kind of want to go with you first.
Sure.
I don't think we can ignore the shooting. I'll go ahead. I've played it before. I'll go ahead and play the shooting just one more time because I think it's worth playing to give us a little bit of a reference as to what's happened here recently.
If you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Okay.
Mm.
For the record, I want to be as clear as I can about this. The conspiracy theories are off the charts on this. I'm not going to speak for Lori. I'm going to speak for myself. Typically, the simple explanations throughout history are the ones that have been most accurate. As far as we know right now, the shooter was a lone gunman. He was a typical shooter that we have seen many times before. Very much odd type of individual. Quite frankly, looks like somebody who never had a date or had any type of a life, and somewhat of an outcast. Now we don't know the details of that, but he fits that. He looks just like the shooter that shot up the nightclub. He looks just like the shooter that shot up the movie theater. Just out of place individuals. And unfortunately, these people have a way of getting through the cracks at the absolute worst time, and that appears to be the situation. I've heard a lot of. I'm not particularly religious. I don't particularly care for people that say that God reached down and guide the bullet away from them. I'm not. That's not something I really tend to listen to. For the most part, my belief is Mr. Trump got extremely lucky, and I'm very glad that he did, because I don't want anybody to get killed. I don't want it to happen to Biden. I don't want it to happen to Obama. We have to start respecting life and law and order in this country. And, there's nothing good about this at all. Putting any kind of a spin on it is something that, I'm not particularly large on. Okay. With that being said, your evolution now, RFK supported in brief terms. What did you like about RFK?
A lot. Policy-wise, we really agree on most things. I don't have
Okay.
much policy disagreement with Kennedy. The reason that I left the campaign, I left July 4th weekend, shortly after the Vanity Fair article came out. And like most people, I mean, I don't care if he ate a dog or a goat. That's his business. I don't care what he eats. It
Yeah.
was the allegations made by Eliza Cooney, the former live-in babysitter, that alarmed me. And of course, I didn't want to believe them at first. So I did what a journalist does. I investigated the claims. And I've been around the Kennedy family and the Kennedy orbit for more than 30 years. So I have a lot of sources that I can tap. And I
Okay.
did. And the more that I dug, I discovered that there were sadly other victims.
Mm.
Now, I can't really talk about that much in detail because it's still a developing story. Still
Yeah.
working on it. The other victims are understandably afraid to go public. And so they're only
Mhm.
speaking to me very confidentially and off the record. And for now, I have to keep that to myself. But that's the short version of why I withdrew my support for Bobby Kennedy. Now, if you had told me, Billy, 10 days ago that I would end up supporting Donald Trump, I would have laughed. I would have said
Yeah.
there's no chance in hell that that's going to happen. As you know, I've been exceedingly critical of President Trump.
Yeah.
And what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania last Saturday changed everything. And
Yeah.
I am one of those spiritual people. I pray a lot. You read my statement there where I talked about how I had a long talk with God that went on for several days. And I truly believe that last Saturday, it wasn't the Secret Service that saved Donald Trump's life. And I don't chalk it up to luck. I truly believe that God spared his life for a reason.
Okay.
And I've seen a new Donald Trump in the week since. I've seen a new humility and kindness in this man that I had never seen before. I see a change in him, and I know myself, I've had a brush with death. Anyone out there who's ever come close to meeting their maker, you know what I'm talking about. It changes you.
Yeah.
and it brings you closer to whatever spiritual force you believe in, however you may know God by whatever name.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've been going through this past week, and I realized that Donald Trump is going to win, and I want to help him win. I want to help him save this country.
Fair enough. Let me explain a little bit more about my position then. I'll push back with you on a couple of things. And here again, respectfully, this is what discussion's all about.
Sure.
I'm a little squeamish talking about it's one thing to have personal beliefs and feel that you have a relationship with a higher power and all these other things, but I'm a little squeamish about insinuating that God intervened, especially in political situations. For example, if you will say that he intervened and protected Trump, well, he didn't care about the guy that got shot and killed. He didn't care about Martin Luther King. He didn't care about Robert Kennedy Sr. He didn't care about JFK. He didn't care about Lincoln. You could go on with this.
Fair
And
point.
the other thing is, it's very dangerous to talk. And I've heard a lot of religious right congressmen and senators over the years say things like, "Well, God, had His hand in this election." Blah blah blah. That's very, very dangerous. Okay, because the next step is God wants me to be president, and we don't need to mess around with these elections anymore.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we have a separation of church and state. So I want to be very careful. Throughout the Middle East and other areas of the world, the lines really get blurred about, God wanting certain leaders in positions. And, that's something that we have always depended on the vote. We have always depended on the will of the people and any number of other factors. Our Constitution as well. We're not a pure democracy. We have a Constitution with a given set of rules that we got to play by. And then we have a representative government. We elect people to go and represent government for us. There's no representation that is divine, so to speak.
On that, I agree with you. On the separation of church and state, we are in step.
Okay.
We are in step on that.
Okay, good. And let me go through some of the things you said about. We'll come back to Trump and his changes because I don't see it dramatically. Okay, but we'll come back to that. You also fault RFK for the recording, and I got to tell you, I really hate any confidential conversation manipulated, recorded. I absolutely hate it. Okay. I think it's the absolute worst violation of privacy there is. I've heard different stories about this.
Especially with, former president. I mean,
Yes.
that's very, very severe breach of protocol.
Yeah. Now he said he apologized and he wasn't aware of that was happening. Am I correct in that? And do you agree with that?
Not be aware. There was a camera crew in the room and Bobby was looking at the camera. He knew it was being recorded. He knew.
Okay.
What he claims he didn't know is that it was being posted on the internet by his son.
Oh, okay. Nonetheless,
who's married to the campaign manager. So how could you not know that?
Okay, fair enough. The apology came. I took it for what it was worth, and I know a lot of times these guys get recorded or taken out of context. I think one of the worst things that if you are the president of the United States, for example, and I'm your assistant, I'm some sort of a administrative person, confidant, or what have you, and troops are amassed somewhere, and it looks like we might have to, just to be safe, I say to you, Lori, we got to mobilize the nuclear option here, just in case the unthinkable happens. We have to be ready. We can't be making decisions when there's missiles in the air coming at us. You agree.
Right.
The crisis passes, and when I'm out of your office, I write a book about the time President Lori Spencer was ready to use nuclear weapons. Now, is it true? Yes, but it has a completely different flavor now. And I hate it when their confidence, whether it's a politician, somebody famous, when their confidence gets breached like that. I really think it's probably one of the worst types of privacy violation there is. That's why they can't trust anybody. Do you agree with me on that?
Totally.
Okay.
And that hurt Bobby a lot, even with his own supporters.
Sure.
They were
You
like, "What are you doing?"
you also cite the brain worm. And now, for those who may not know, he had a parasite. And I guess this was a while back. This was like 10 or 15 years ago, 2010, something like that. This is
Mhm.
not uncommon, and it can be normally very. I don't want to say I'm not a doctor, but let's just say it can very often be fixed with medicine, not necessarily surgery. And apparently, that was the case. You fault him for that. Is that just because of the perception of it being something gruesome, something ghoulish attached to his name? Is that why you fault him for that?
Honestly, I don't have a problem with the brain worm.
Hmm.
You're referring to a thread that I posted last night saying that Kennedy cannot win.
Right.
And I cited the reasons why he cannot win. Yesterday, the campaign put out a video comparing his run to Ross Perot in 1992. And I took issue with that because I remember well the 1992 election. I covered it.
Yeah.
I remember what happened to Ross Perot. It's important to remember that in the summer of 1992, Perot was actually leading both President Bush and Bill Clinton by a sizable margin. He was at 36%. I think, Clinton was around 30% at that time. Bush was around 27%. And
Hmm.
so, how did Ross Perot lose the momentum, right? He had this incredible lead and all this momentum. And what happened between the summer and the election? Well, Ross Perot was put under the microscope, and the voters took a good look at him, and they found some things that made them question whether or not he was the guy.
Yeah.
And his support plummeted from 36% to, in the end, 18% in the general election, which was still a very impressive showing. But the fact is, and I say this as someone who's been a third party voter for 30 years, there's never really been, Billy, a third party or independent presidential candidate who was able to gain the trust of the American voters where they felt confident, where enough people felt confident to go
Hmm.
out and vote for him. Now, when we look at RFK, what you're citing is a list, and these are complaints and concerns that we have heard throughout the campaign right up until now from the electorate, and they're the only people who matter. The people we have to, or I should say, I'm no longer part of this campaign. Those are the people that Robert Kennedy and his surrogates have to convince to vote
Yeah.
for him. And they cite, of course, cognitive concerns because of the brain worm. He's been asked to release his medical records. He said 2 months or more ago that he would, still hasn't. So we don't know what kind of effect that's had.
Okay.
And anytime there's uncertainty, Billy, as you know, with voters, they
Yep.
tend to back away from a candidate. If there's any hint that that candidate might not be who they present themselves to be, if they sense that the candidate might be untrustworthy or dishonest or just maybe not all there, that's why Ross Perot lost in 92. Remember,
Hmm.
everyone thought he was a nut.
Right.
The majority of the American people thought he was a nut, and unfortunately, there is that perception out there about RFK. Also,
He also pulled out of the race, and as I remember, it was some really hokey excuse, like the Republicans were going to disrupt his daughter's wedding reception or some kind of
yes,
BS
that's
like
the
that.
one.
Uh,
That's right. And then he got caught lying about a lot of that stuff. So then the trust was broken. And
yeah,
once you've lost the trust of the voters, you can't get it back usually.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Getting back to Trump. All right. I kind of get what the picture is with RFK. Getting back to your support for Trump, I want to be very clear. If you're new to the program here, I'm not a partisan. So when I'm talking to Lori or anybody about a candidate and I'm pushing their buttons, it's because I want to have a discussion about it. I
I like you.
believe I believe that, let's say in early post 9/11, like in that first year after 9/11, we had the support of the entire world. Even people, even countries, even cultures that were kind of 50-50 on the United States. They saw what happened and they're like, okay, United States, we got to support them. We have to unite against terrorism. We have to do all these things. And the Bush administration and our country in general in the following years really squandered that support.
Right.
We squandered it by making a lot of bad decisions, poking our noses in the places we shouldn't have, and it was a lost opportunity. But and here again, it's a lost opportunity, and I want to be clear: we don't typically talk about tragedies as opportunities, but in fact, they are. There's an old political axiom that basically says you never let a crisis go to waste. And we had the Trump and his campaign had one of those crisis moments last week, and he had a lot of people. If you were on the fence about Trump, or maybe you said maybe I'll give this guy a second look, they had a real opportunity at that convention to hit some people with a completely different Trump. Now I know you said you saw a different one. Here's what I saw. Being a marketing person, I think what Amber Rose did, and I'll tell you what, I'll play the Amber Rose clip just so you can get an idea of time. Listen to the tone and listen to this.
I watched all the rallies, and I started meeting so many of you, his red hat wearing supporters. I realized Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love. And that's when it hit me. These are my people. This is where I belong.
Okay. That was a fantastic speech. And there were conservatives
Great
out there.
moment.
Yeah. And there were conservatives out there knocking some of the other speakers. And I don't get it. The whole thing about unity, the whole thing about, changing some of the rhetoric. This is exactly as someone who wants the best for the country. This is the type of dialogue that we should have been really praising. Okay. And I expected that with Trump, although I didn't quite trust him. I kind of, and I mean, trust him in terms of how he was going to give his presentation. As a creator, I do marketing for a living and other things. And one of my little rules is brief and impactful. Those two kind of things kind of go to brief and impactful. Okay.
I don't think Trump knows how to do brief, Billy.
and that's the thing. It's kind of like in show business. This is a showbiz axiom. You always leave people wanting more, right? You don't want to leave a concert and say, my God, I thought that thing was never going to end. Okay. That's not the way you want to leave your audience. And Trump went on way too long, first of all. And he started out really well talking about the shooting, which, and how can you not find that interesting? Okay. That's very captivating stuff. When he went over to the uniform of the fallen firefighter, very captivating stuff.
I cried, man. I did.
And then the bloviating started. And it sounded probably midway through to the end, quite frankly, no different than a speech he was giving out in some cornfield in Iowa with a group of supporters. It was the same old crazy Nancy Pelosi, all this stuff. And they're funny terms. When I hear him say crooked Joe Biden, crazy Nancy Pelosi, laughing Kamala, they're funny names. Okay. But impactful. He went a long time, objectively speaking here, Lori, without too many laughs and without too many impactful statements, saying that hundreds of thousands of people have been killed by illegal immigrants, which would have been the population of an entire city. And here again, I'm not underplaying what illegal immigration has done to this country. It's very serious. But these kinds of exaggerations.
One is too many.
One is too many, but that doesn't give you license to say 1 million of them have been killed or whatever. You just can't make things up. And what happens when you do that, Lori, is it gives your opposition ammunition to say, that's the kind of bullshit we're talking about.
Right.
And I feel that he missed it. He should have gone one or two directions. He either should have stayed very serious, very brief, made a very dramatic, powerful statement, like with the firefighter, or he should have gone completely the other direction. Some of the same comedic writers who write for the press for that, the press event that they have every year, where they have the press corps come out and make jokes about the president, and those are all written for them. They should have had those kind of comedic writers write him a bunch of funny one-liners and go with that. Do one or the other. But
It
just to have
seemed
him,
inappropriate, though. I mean, being that was his first speech after nearly getting
I
killed,
totally,
I don't really think it's appropriate to be the
I would
usual
agree.
jokey Trump, and he's a funny guy, but I don't
He
think
had
that
some
was the
funny
time or
lines
the
in there,
place.
like when he held up the graphic and said, "Let me take a look at this. I didn't get a chance to look at it before." That was genuinely good humor stuff.
Yeah.
But here again, like I said, objectively, the second half of that speech, not a lot of sharp points, not a lot of laughs, not a lot of great points about policy. The audience was standing
Oh,
blankly
I
there for a while.
disagree. I
Okay, tell
disagree.
me that
I
was
heard some
90
great
minutes.
policy points there.
Okay, in 90 minutes, you would think he might have squeezed something out. But that was a long. There was some. Like I said, you can tell me about the few things that or I'll say the many things that he just said in full policy, and I bet you can do it in a lot of shorter time than he did. Go ahead. Tell me your evaluation of the speech.
Well, I think that, the second half of the speech was most likely what was already drafted in the speech that he had already planned to
It was.
give before the
It was
assassination
3,000
attempt.
words.
And then,
It was,
yeah. So that's why the speech was so long. He had to deliver the speech that he'd originally planned to give. And then I think he spent about 35 minutes telling the story of what happened in Butler. And that was the best part of the speech. I agree.
absolutely.
But then he went to his standard pat speech that you hear at almost every Trump rally.
Exactly right.
But
Mhm.
I heard a lot of policy there that I liked. Believe me, I would not be endorsing President Trump just because somebody tried to kill him.
Right.
I'm endorsing him because I like the policies that I'm hearing from President Trump. And by the way, I supported President Trump in 2016 because I liked his policies.
Mhm.
I only pulled away in 2017 because he started hiring swamp creatures and he broke promises that he made, and he didn't release the JFK files, and he prosecuted Julian Assange, and he did a lot of things that I disagreed with and I felt betrayed, and I backed away, and I did not support him in 2020. So
Okay.
I am coming back to the fold, and the number one reason are the policies. I want this war in Ukraine to end. I want this
Okay.
war in Gaza to end.
Yeah.
I do believe that he will put a stop to it. Certainly no Democratic president will, whether it's Biden, Harris, or whoever. I don't think that, Bobby Kennedy's pledged to do it, but he's not going to win. So that leaves us with President Trump. I am
Yep.
staunchly anti-war. He will end that war. He pledges to do it on day one. I hope he can. I know that he will end it as soon as possible. I also love his policy to build an Iron Dome over the
Mhm.
United States. I've been saying for years that we should, if that's our technology, and we should have the same protection that Israel and other countries have. There's absolutely no reason why we can't do it. And it would be a national jobs program, the likes of which we haven't seen since FDR's New Deal. I think it'll
Mhm.
be amazing for the American economy. Also, the economy was great under Trump. I don't know about you, but I want that back. There are
Mhm.
so many reasons, and also, of course, the border crisis, because I'm down here in Oklahoma and Texas, and I'm dealing with the border every single day and have for 20 years. Our border
Mhm.
was more secure under President Trump than it's been under any other president. So
Yeah.
that's a short list of the policies that he outlined in that speech that I wholeheartedly agree with and that I have no trouble supporting at all.
Yeah. And my point is simply this: he could have gone through that story about the shooting and rattled off what you just said in much
Sure.
less time.
Could have.
Okay, now
But here's the thing about Trump, and it's true. He's surrounded by all these professional marketing people and smart people like you who give him very good advice. Like, Mr. Trump, you could say that in a much more concise way and just stick to the teleprompter, they tell him.
yeah,
But you know what? Trump's at his best when he ignores the teleprompter. And that's what made the first half of his speech so damn good at the RNC.
yeah,
And what made his speech in Michigan yesterday really special, because for most of the speech, he ignored the teleprompter and he was just, you got to let Trump be Trump. When you just get out of his way, let him ramble, let him tell jokes, let him make mistakes, let him just be himself, you're getting the honest Trump. And then you can evaluate whether you like him or not. But what we love about Trump is that he's not a teleprompter guy, and he sucks when he's on the teleprompter. Nobody likes him when he's on the teleprompter, even though that's the good advice that all of his smart marketing people who get paid a lot of money tell him to do. And I like it best when he just ignores their advice.
yeah. I there's a dichotomy in that argument, in that he's best when he's off the teleprompter, and he's best when he's running too long, because that's the real him. But is his best the best for the entire audience? He has the by the time you're giving a speech at the convention, your base is already in place. Your speech at the convention is toward people who are undecided and who are giving you a second chance. And you have to remember that. I totally agree about the border. The border is not only an economic issue, but it is a security issue. And really, to talk about securing it now, the barn door's already been left open. We have millions of people in here. I do not fall for the BS that it's racist and this and that and the other thing. The idea that I believe it was Senator Kennedy, not the Kennedy family, but the Republican from Louisiana.
John Kennedy.
Yeah,
from Louisiana.
He put it very nice. He said, "You lock your door at night, not because you hate everybody outside, but because you don't let people in until you get to know them." And that's exactly what that's very reasonable. There's nothing bad about that at all. And of course, liberals and Democrats, if you say anything about border, they immediately label you as anti-immigrant.
You're racist. Whatever.
Yes, and the whole routine. So I see
we
that.
take in people legally from all over the world all the
Yes.
time, all day and all night, and that's not racist to ask
No.
them to just come in the proper way. We'd be happy
Yeah.
to let you in once we've screened you and determined that you're not a terrorist or a criminal and that you'll actually be an asset to the United States. We're happy to let you in. We just ask that you don't swarm our border. And as Donald Trump says, send your worst people.
Exactly. And a lot of these utopian landscapes that liberals are always touting, Canada being one of them, they're it's harder to get into Canada than it is the United States. Like, you have to have a job.
It is. I have.
Okay.
I've been there, man. 12 hours at the border. Been
Yes.
there, done that. Yeah.
So I'm with him. I'm with on all the common sense things. Strong border, strong defense, all these other things. Totally 100% with him on that. And I believe most reasonable Americans are. I also like the fact that he's treading lightly on social issues such as abortion and all this other stuff. I don't believe that I think Republicans jump at social issues, and quite frankly, it's a trap because they always sound like old fuddy-duddies to younger people. If Republicans would just stay out of social issues, concentrate on lower taxes, concentrate on strong defense, their bread and butter, they would be a lot better off. But quite frankly, all I have to do is, talk about some crazy sexual thing that a group of people are doing and say that they should be a protected class. Even if I don't mean it, I know the Republicans are going to jump at it. They're going to take the bait every single time and get off
Every time.
message.
That's
Every
right.
mess, every time. So, with all that being said, I kind of like that part about him, that he's going soft on social issues, strong on things that most people can agree on, most reasonable people can agree on, strong defense, etc. I would have to know more about the dome. I know the dome over a country of the size of the United States is much more difficult than something that's over Israel.
Right.
And I think the real threat, quite frankly, the modern nuclear weapons are not like they're perceived in movies, where you just blanket the world with radiation. That doesn't happen anymore. Um, Modern nuclear weapons have a very small radiation footprint, that you can dial in the size of the blast. They are very precision now. And what's really scary about the delivery systems are the hypersonic missiles, because as it stands right now, as far as I'm aware, there's no technology that can stop them. So that's really where the danger is as far as countries go. I would still have to say I'm not that concerned about a country attacking us with nuclear weapons. What I am concerned about, what would keep me up at night, is the lone wolf that came across the border, that has a
Mm.
nuclear dirty bomb in the back of the van, and who's
Yep.
perfectly willing to sacrifice himself. That is much more likely. And not to be crude here, Lori, but it's the truth. That is the wet dream of every terrorist out there, is to
Yep.
bring a nuclear device into the United States and set it off. That is much more likely in the long haul than being attacked by somebody like Russia with missiles. So that's kind of my kind of take on that.
Mm.
Moving forward, getting into Biden. One of the things I said about Biden all along, over the past year, was once he's out of there, and I knew it was going to happen. Now you have a completely different situation. I know that there is a lot of Republicans right now who are calling for the resignation of Biden, because they say, well, if he's not fit enough to run, then he's not fit enough to be president for the next 6 months or whatever it is. I wouldn't push that if I was a Republican, because as it stands right now, this fall, Biden is still going to be an unpopular president. Okay, serving out as a lame duck. He's going to be in power. He's going to be unpopular. And whether it's Kamala Harris or somebody else, that person is going to be a wild card in terms of what they are going to do once they get in there. If Biden resigns now, Trump could be facing a sitting president who is perceived as capable by the time November rolls around. And I would
Did you
not
say?
want
Did you say capable?
capable. Yes. Yeah, now you scoff
Okay.
at it, but I'm telling you, she gets in there. Let's say they force him to resign.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yes.
So you're
And
saying Kamala being capable?
right. Right.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, let me be clear here. As it stands
I'm
now,
listening.
as it stands, if he stays as president until January, when November rolls around, he's still going to be president. He's still going to be very unpopular. And whether it's Kamala Harris is the candidate or somebody else, that person is going to be largely a wild card in terms of what they are going to do once they get in there. On the other hand, if you get Kamala in there now, let's say she becomes president in August, Biden resigns, she becomes president August 1st, and things go well from August through November. She's perceived as now a sitting president. She's not a candidate. She's a sitting president. And things aren't too bad. Gas prices aren't that bad. Things in the Middle East cooled off. Now you got a different battle on your hands. And don't underestimate, I've been telling my Republican friends this, as a marketing and branding professional, even if Biden stays in, if Kamala Harris becomes the candidate, a successful convention where she listens to the marketing and branding people, by the time September rolls around, the image of her could be very different than what it is now. And I don't underestimate the power of branding and marketing, because it really makes a difference. So from my point of view, if I was a Republican, I would not be pushing for him to go out. Now, in all honesty, if there's a legitimate concern about his faculties, that he is a danger at this point, then obviously I think we have to move to get him out. But if it's just a matter of a political move just to kick him when he's down, I would leave well enough alone and let them
Yeah.
come up. Yeah. So anyhow, that's my advice.
Yeah. It's good advice
I,
and a very interesting scenario that you put forward there. I had not really considered the possibility that he may step down before the election. It's possible.
yeah,
In this election year, literally anything could
anything is
happen.
possible. Yeah.
Anything could happen. We've seen that play out in the last 2 weeks. So I still have a hard time believing, though, that, I mean, Kamala Harris, historically, her polling numbers, her approval ratings are much lower than
Yeah.
President Biden. She's got an uphill battle trying to convince people that she should be the next president of the United States. A lot of people just don't like her. Her favorability is quite bad. So 3 months, boy, that's an uphill battle trying to win over the American people when you're so unpopular. But like I said,
It's
anything can
a,
happen.
yeah,
You
I
never know.
don't, I'm not on board with the idea. If you're a Republican, and I'm saying this, if I was advising you, take no comfort in what the poll numbers are now. Take no comfort. Our friend James Carville once was commenting about why Clinton won in '92 when a year earlier it
Mhm.
seemed like it was impossible. And he said, "When you sit on an egg, it hatches. When you sit on a lead, it rots." And that's his
Very
style, but
true.
it is true. If you take what you have for granted right now, thinking, "Oh, Biden's out of there, they're gonna put Kamala in there, her numbers suck, da 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 da, it's gonna be a cakewalk. She's not gonna be any
Mhm.
good during the debate, da da da." And I'm telling you, a good marketing and branding person, they can whip her into shape. And if they have a successful convention a month from now, you could be facing something completely different by the time September and October rolls around. And I'll
I
say
think
this,
the convention's gonna be a shit show, man.
okay,
Chicago is gonna be a
is
shit show.
is
Yeah,
that your objective opinion, or is this
it is. No, it is.
it's your
It is.
objective
I've seen
opinion?
it coming all year long.
Okay.
And now you throw in the Gaza war and so much division within the Democratic Party and the planned protests and the fact that they're just trying to do a virtual nominating process and kind of skip having a convention. There's a recipe for disaster, and I've seen it coming for months. The Democratic Party is divided.
Mhm.
What we saw last week, the Republican Party is united. And never underestimate the power of a very united party behind their candidate. Here we are 1 week after the Republican convention, hasn't even been a whole week, and the Democrats are scrambling and divided amongst themselves as to who to nominate. Now
Yeah.
Biden's out, there's still that question mark. I mean, we
Yeah.
assume it will be Kamala as the nominee, but we don't know. We
Yeah.
don't know. And it's going to be a shit show.
Okay. I will say this. If I had to make a prediction as it stands right now, and this is July 21st, this would be my prediction. As far as RFK Jr. is concerned, I would say in the big scheme of things, it's not impossible that he could become a threat to be a winner. It's not impossible. But with that being said, saying that it's
I
possible is
think it's impossible.
kind of like the Dumb and Dumber. So there's a chance. Now he polls very high against Trump with no Biden. Polls very high.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So
what the hell? I mean, what kind of race do you really think the Democrats aren't going to run a nominee? Of course they are. That's
yeah.
magical thinking to think, oh, it's just going to be me versus Trump in a head to head. It's not. It's going to be a three-way race. I mean, I'm sorry, but wake
No,
up. Of course, the Democrats are going to have a nominee.
Yes. So I'm saying it's not impossible. I know I have a lot of RFK supporters that watch this program, as you know, and they're very much big fans. And I know I'm going to piss them off. It's
Oh, no,
possible.
I'm pissing them off. They hate me, not you.
Okay.
Look,
Well,
guys, I'm just telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth that the campaign will not tell you.
yeah.
I'm telling you he can't win in the general. I'm telling you that he can't win as an independent. I'm telling you that he's not going to be the Democratic Party nominee. Those of you who were with the campaign last spring and summer You remember how they drove him out of the party. The people who run the Democratic Party cannot stand him, and they're not going to change their hearts now. No matter
Yeah.
how much he says, pick me, they're not going to pick him. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So he's stuck being an independent or a libertarian or a we the people
Whatever.
party or whatever. I mean, that's another problem that voters perceive with Kennedy is he's unclear. They don't know if he's really a Democrat.
Exactly.
Is he a libertarian? Is he this? Is he that? His policies are unclear. Up until I left the campaign a few weeks ago, I was constantly being asked by new people who were curious about Kennedy, where do I find his policies? What's his policy on this issue? What's his policy on that issue? They weren't clear. If you're this late in the game, if you're in the summer before the election and people still don't know where you stand on policy or you're fence walking, like when he put out that tweet a couple of weeks back saying, I'm not going to take sides on 9/11. A lot of people said, what? You're running for office. Of course you're supposed to take a side. What is your position? Be very clear and unambiguous. So again, these are problems that voters perceive, and it's why he's not going to win. Sorry, guys.
No, I agree with you. And here again, I in this day and age, I'm never going to say never, but I would have to say that's the most least likely candidate to win would be RFK Jr. Now, interestingly, you mentioned how you've gotten some grief from the supporters. I mentioned several weeks ago, and I ended up doing an episode about how RFK does not have a brand, and all the RFK people just came right at me. And the fact of the matter is you can't identify him instantly as he doesn't have that. This is him. He doesn't have that. Trump does, for better or for worse. Either you like him or you don't. The MAGA thing, the whole red, white, and blue. You know his brand. Okay. He just does not jump out at you. Quite frankly, the problem with Biden, one of my biggest episodes, I went through a marketing plan as to where the Democrats went wrong over the last 4 years. It's been my biggest episode. Enormous amount of listens. I got a lot of hate on that. I had some national figures come at me on that one because it did get a lot of listens. But the fact of the matter is the Democratic brand so far has been our guy is not as bad as yours. That's not a brand. You don't market Coke as well. It's not as bad as Pepsi. It's not as sweet as Pepsi. That isn't a brand.
Did you see what Joe Biden said the other day in that interview? He said, well, I'm old, yeah, but I'm experienced. Or the other guy's old too. And I'm sitting there thinking, that is not a winning message, sir.
No, it's not. No, it's not. You have to have a feeling. When I mention these Democrats, people get mad at me. I didn't like him. And they miss the whole point of what I'm saying. In 1992, Clinton, he was new, youthful. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. He had the colors, he had the message, all the ads that you saw on TV. The same feeling came across every single time he was being interviewed. It happened all the time. Obama, 2008, again. We are the people that we have been waiting for. Yes, we can. And these aren't just slogans. They're themes that were interwoven into every speech that he gave, every ad that you saw. It was built around the convention. You knew exactly. He created a feeling, just like when you have a celebrity endorse a product.
Yeah, and it was genuine excitement for both Clinton and Obama. There was real momentum, real excitement.
Yes, and they have not done that. Quite frankly, Hillary lost on the Trump won largely on the anti-Hillary vote, and in 2000, Biden won largely on the anti-Trump vote, and now the Democrats didn't change anything up. They're still running on Trump is going to destroy our democracy. This is the type of message. I got this here. I'm going to play this for you. This is Rosie O'Donnell. This is the type of message that I feel is very destructive.
In 100 days, people are saying to me, my therapist actually said to me, well, it's a long time between now and November. No, it isn't. We're about to start school again. You know how quick all of a sudden it's Halloween and then it's Thanksgiving break. So by Thanksgiving break, we're going to know whether we still have democracy in the United States. That's not a long time. It's a long time to worry every day. I could tell you that.
Are you worried? Are you worried, Lori?
I tell you, her therapist is going to make a lot of money off of her in the next 4 years. It's going to be a long 4 years for you, dear.
Yeah, and
Regular therapy sessions twice a week.
I can tell you this. I know everybody's going to hate me. I get it from both sides. That's why I know I'm always right. I'm just kidding.
That's right.
But here's the truth. Okay, the day after the election, Trump has been president before. The Democrats have been have had a president in power before. We've had Biden for 4 years. We're still here. And the day after the election, we're all going to have to get our asses out of bed and go to work and deal with the same assholes that we always deal with. And life is going to go on. This fatalistic notion that everything is going to be the end of life as we know it if the other guy or the other person gets in is the kind of bullshit that led up to that shooting. Would you agree with me on that?
I do. You know, politics, it's like you see people get upset enough to kill each other over a football game, over
Oh, yeah.
sports. Politics, unfortunately, has become very much the same way in recent years. The tribalism has become so nasty and mean-spirited. And you and I both know we're taking it on the chin every day for expressing an opinion. If you express
Yes.
an opinion, people care a lot that you have an opinion, especially if they disagree with you, and they'll find out where you live, man. They'll come kill
Yeah.
your dog. They take this way too seriously, or worse, they'll try to kill the presidential candidate. And as you know, Billy, for the last 7 months, I've been producing an in-depth investigative series about the assassination of Robert Kennedy Sr. in
Okay.
1968. It's called Who Killed Bobby Kennedy? And the reason that I took that deep dive and produced that 10-part series was as a warning to America, not just to help keep Bobby Kennedy Jr. safe, but all of the candidates safe. It was a cautionary tale. It was the warning about how fanaticism, taking politics so seriously that you live and breathe it and it's your life and it consumes you, is very bad for your mental health. And
Yeah.
when you're that committed to a cause, next thing you know, you're that guy standing there with a gun, like
Mhm.
we just saw last Saturday.
Yeah.
So, you know, Sirhan was devoted to his cause. When he shot Kennedy, he said, and everyone in the pantry heard him, I did it for my country. And his
Yeah.
country was Palestine. So
Yeah.
he shot Senator Kennedy because of his support for Israel, and that's that. I know
Yeah.
that Bobby Kennedy Jr. believes there's a big CIA conspiracy and 5 other gunmen in the room or whatever. It just didn't happen. There were 77 witnesses in the room, and not one of them saw anyone else fire a gun that night. So
Yeah.
when it comes to the assassination of JFK, yes, I believe the CIA was involved, and it was a government hit. On the RFK assassination, no, there's no conspiracy there. And that's after 7 months and 35 years of study and
Yeah.
interviewing every expert on both sides. So
Yeah.
be careful, folks. Don't take this so seriously. Remember to get out, touch grass, spend time with your family and your dog and your cat or whatever brings you joy in this world, and don't put all your hopes on politicians would be my advice to you as
Absolutely.
a hardened old journalist who's been around the block.
Yeah.
It's
Y-
just an election. They're just politicians. Calm down, everybody.
Yes. For those of
Calm
you
down.
that may not know Lori, Lori presents some fantastic perspectives on the past. I would very much encourage you to follow Lori. And here's the thing: we don't always agree. I'm sure there's some people that were pissed off about some of the things I said today. The fact of the matter is if you allow people, I think one of the worst things we do is we get into bubbles. We follow people that we like,
Right.
both in the media and on social media. We not only don't listen to people that we don't agree with, but we block them. We don't even want to be. We don't even want that to hit our radar. And what it does is it creates a false reality. And every once in a while, it's good to have your cage shaken a little bit. It's good to have your perspective shaken a little bit. I would summarize by saying that I believe as far as where we are now in July 21st, I Kennedy might have a slim chance you could make an argument. You never know. The world could turn upside down and something would really great happen for the Kennedy campaign. I would have to say that's unlikely. I would have to say that the edge is probably right now with Trump. And I'll say that it's largely his to lose. And that's all it takes is one off the cuff remark. So I would say that with caution. I would say it with caution, not only because of that, but because of the fact I would not underestimate the power of the Democrats with a good marketing firm to pull something together. And if they get a nice shiny candidate in there with the right marketing campaign, a successful convention, and the right press leading into September and October, and we could be looking at a different set of numbers. And I say that to you because right now, quite honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards Trump. My own personal, I'm kind of saying I hope Trump can pull it off. I haven't committed yet.
Glad to hear it.
Okay, I'm not. I haven't committed yet, but I'm leaning in that direction, and I say that as a cautionary tale. You know, we live in such a bubble now that if you respectfully tell somebody for their own good, don't count on these numbers staying there. And if you get mad at me at the mere suggestion that I make that Trump could lose, you're setting yourself up. You've got to be able to live in the world that we are in, and in the world that we are in, things can change fast. They can change really fast, and don't underestimate
Really fast.
Yes, really fast. And saying that Trump
Can
is
I
going
ask
to
you
win.
a question?
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
Sorry, there seems to be a bit of a delay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, who do you think that the Democrats should replace Biden with at the convention? Any thoughts on that?
They don't have a rock star. They don't have an Obama. They do not have a Clinton. Okay. So I don't know. I think the
I mean, a
general wisdom.
Bill, right? Because they're talking about Hillary, but you're
Yes,
talking
yes.
about Bill.
Yeah, Hillary's not.
Okay.
Hillary already endorsed Harris. So they don't have a Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
They don't have a Barack Obama. Gavin Newsom, he's a skilled talker. I wouldn't, here again, I wouldn't underestimate him, but I think the negatives that he's coming from in California right now are just too large. And the safe bet seems to be Harris, because now that Biden has endorsed her, it's going to be easier to move the funds that they collected for the Biden campaign to her. So,
Right.
yeah, so I'm the logical thing would be Harris, and here again, her image isn't totally bad. She's definitely got youth on her side. She's not unattractive. She's got a lot of things going on that are good tools to work with. So I wouldn't necessarily underestimate what they could do with her. Now, I've heard different things. I've heard the astronaut, I can't think of his name, from Arizona, he's come up. There's been a couple of other people, but the only problem with those, and my failure to recollect his name is the perfect example. He's not known well enough. And I don't know that somebody like that is going to be a good idea either. They don't have much time, as you pointed out, Lori, so they can't create a brand. They have to polish one they already have.
You know what they say about you can't polish a turd?
Yes, that is correct.
A lot of truth in that.
Yes. I don't think Michelle Obama is going to step into it. Although,
Right.
interestingly, President Obama did not endorse Harris today. So, that's interesting. He talked around it. If Michelle Obama gets in there, I think she could be a formidable opponent, at least initially. I think the problem with somebody named Obama is this, and this is a true party aside. I think the idea of constantly recycling Clinton, recycling Obama, recycling Bush, these things are not good for our country. I think they need to get somebody in there, for better or for worse, that's fresh. Harris is at least she doesn't have a prior connection to any of these people. There's somebody that they actually her chops as a prosecutor. A lot of the times when liberals go after Harris, they talk about her time as a prosecutor. That's actually things I like. I like somebody who's tough on.
I want to say this. There's only one thing that she did in her job as prosecutor and as attorney general that I actually liked. She is the one who did not let Sirhan out of prison. Yeah. Ultimately, it was Governor Newsom who turned down the suggestion of the parole board, but he got an advisory opinion written by the attorney general, and that was Kamala Harris at the time. And she was correct on that one. I'll give her that.
Yeah. Okay.
So the only thing I like about her, only thing she ever did that was good, in my opinion.
Yes.
She got that right.
Yeah. And here again, in the way she appears on camera, I know it shouldn't matter, but it does. And Gavin Newsom is a perfect example. He looks good. He does. And it makes a difference.
Looks like the lost Kennedy brother.
If you don't think looks matter, take a look into this Wade Wilson situation. If you don't think looks matter. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's got quite the following, and he is about as grotesque of a killer as you can come up with. So looks matter. Youthful appearance, a lot of good things going on. There's a lot of things that you can build on that as a branding person. So, Lori, where can people find you? I know you mentioned some things. I mentioned your podcast, all of which are top flight. Lori is the absolute best. Where can people find you? I know you're going to be following the election. You're going to be following Trump. Where can people track you down?
You can find me on Substack, Lori Spencer at Substack.com. You can follow me on X at Real Lori Spencer and on YouTube at Real Lori Spencer. And if you're interested in history, that's my bag. And since we're talking about assassinations, check out this investigative series I've done, Who Killed Bobby Kennedy? It's in 10 parts, really takes you through all of the evidence of the case. And Billy, when Trump got shot last Saturday, the first thought that I had just coming off the production of this series was how strangely similar. There were so many similarities to the assassination of Robert Kennedy. It happened at a rally. He was shot in the ear. That's where Kennedy was shot, in his right ear, by a lone gunman. There are many, many similarities, and I'm sure that when you start looking into that, you'll see what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Lori, it's great having you. Sorry about the delay. I don't know what's going on, but
Me neither.
obviously
Stream
you're a pro.
thing.
Yes. My name is
It
Billy
happens.
Dees. You can find me on most social media platforms just by searching Billy Dees or the Billy Dees Podcast. You can find the Billy Dees Podcast on all the major podcasting platforms. We have almost a 10-year history now with this current format, current brand name of Billy Dees, the Billy Dees Podcast. So we shouldn't be hard to find. Do check us out. We do not charge for subscriptions. We do not charge for following, like a lot of people. That we don't have exclusive content that you don't have to pay for. Our listeners never have to pay a dime to check out the program, or find out anything about us. So by all means, subscribe on your favorite platform to the Billy Dees Podcast. Lori, thank you so much for coming on the program. Hang out after we're done. I just want to say goodbye to you. I really appreciate you coming on. You're the absolute best. You're the pro's pro. And boy, I just have nothing but mad chops of respect for you. You're the best.
Love you. Peace.
All right. Love you too. See you later. And keep following me on Twitter, on X now, at Billy Dees. Lots of great stuff happening, and we'll be talking about it. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Billy Dees Podcast. Follow Billy Dees on X at Billy Dees for updates about the program.